This is the Fujifilm flagship APS-C camera, the XH2S, which cost more than some of the other full-frame cameras in the market in 2023. This camera was released back in July 2022 and I got it in January 2023, so 6 months after it was released. It's been 4 months I'm using it. Is it still worth the money, especially after the release of the Sony ZV-E1, a full-frame camera for almost the same price? Let's talk about it in this video. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on my channel. I'm Photorabs. I do videos about photography, filmmaking, camera tech related videos, accessories, action cams, vlogging kits. If you are interested in these topics, I highly appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. That's a massive help. Now let's go back to the video. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my honest opinion about the Fujifilm XH2S that I'm using now to film this video, whether it's worth the money or not after 4 months of using it, or if you may 10 months after it was released. If you are interested in Fujifilm ecosystem, watch this video till the end. When this camera was released back in July 2022, I was really hesitating about getting it to upgrade from my X-T4 to the XH2S. I was hoping for an X-T5 that fits my need even better than the X-T4, which works really well for me. The vintage look was really nice, I really loved it. But when the X-T5 was released, I was really disappointed because it didn't have the flip out screen. That was a big bummer for me. That's why I got the XH2S 6 months after it was released. But now, 4 months after, do I regret my choice? Do I regret my decision? Let's talk about it. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about the build quality of this camera, how I customized the menus in this camera for a better use, the photography side, whether for portraits or for landscapes, the videography side, whether for weddings, filmmaking, for YouTube videos for example, or for vlogging, and of course the downsides. You can find the timestamps just here so you can jump to any section that you want. Feel free to do it, but I highly appreciate if you watch this video till the end. First, you can notice that this camera does not have the vintage look like the XT series cameras. It's more like a modern mirrorless camera. It does not have the shutter and the ISO dials on the top of it. We have instead the LCD screen from the GFX series and the PSAM dial mode with 7 customizable switches. This camera has a great feel to it. It has an enhanced ergonomy comparing to the X-T4 camera that I really enjoy on this XH2S. When I got this camera, I didn't like the PSAM dial mode because I was used to the shutter and the ISO dials on the X-T4. But after 4 months of using this camera, I can say that it's something that I really appreciate on this camera because we have 7 customizable switches that helped me a lot when I'm doing my video creation with this camera. So as a hybrid shooter, I do videography for my YouTube channel, I do wedding films, I do photography, whether landscape, portraits or travel photography. So I can say that the design of this XH2S is the perfect solution for what I need and I'm really enjoying it. As I said before, the PSAM mode has 7 customizable switches, but for my photography side I'm not so demanding. I'm using only the manual, the P mode, the S mode and the A mode on this camera, while for the videography I used the 7 customizable switches, all of them. So I dialed all my preferred settings on these customizable modes so I can use it really quickly. I can change between vlogging scene outdoors to my studio YouTube videos to a wedding to a cinematic shots without dialing all the settings again and again and again. I have them already dialed on my camera and I'm using them almost all the time without any problem. The C1 and the C2 are dedicated to the vlog settings. I have the 25 frames per second for walk and talk scenarios, the 50 frames per second if I want to slow down some footages when I'm vlogging, and these are the main parameters, the main settings for the vlog. I have the IBIS and the electronics tab on for these 2 modes as well. C3 and C4 are dedicated to cinematic and slow motion rushes at 100 frames per second, so I can slow it down to 4 times, which is really nice. The C3 with normal color profile, C4 with F-Log2 so I can color grade afterwards. I dialed my home studio videos at C5 and C6 modes, normal color profile on the C5, F-Log2 on the C6, 25 frames per second, IBIS off, electronics tab off because I'm using it on a tripod. I don't need any stabilization on the camera. The C7 is dedicated to my gimbal shots. I use it at 25 frames per second, F-Log2 as a color profile, IBIS on and electronics tab off. And now let's talk a little bit about the photography side with this XH2S. As a portrait photographer, I do lots of landscape and travel photography as well with this XH2S, and I can say that I'm really loving it. Even if it's an APS-C sensor, it delivers high quality images, very sharp images, whether for portraits or landscapes. The autofocus of this camera is fast, reliable and accurate. I'm enjoying it a lot in my work as a portrait photographer with the 75mm f1.2 from Viltrox that I bought when I got this camera at the same time. I believe it's the best combo for now for portrait photography with the XH2S. The images are really sharp, the details are amazing, the quality of the image is perfect, the color rendering is absolutely stunning on this camera. I really recommend it for portrait photography as well. You may say that the new Sony ZV-E1 is much better than this Fujifilm XH2S for portrait photography because it has a full frame sensor, meaning that we have a higher dynamic range comparing to this Fujifilm XH2S. But on this one we have an EVF. On the Sony ZV-E1 we don't have EVF. So for a hybrid shooter, we need the EVF in order to frame our shots, because when we are shooting in outdoors, we cannot see on the screen what's happening. We will not put a monitor to control what's happening to do our photo shoots with an external monitor. So we need this EVF, and this is a big win for the Fujifilm XH2S over the Sony ZV-E1. Since I got this XH2S, I'm using it as a main camera for my home studio videos, just like now I'm recording with it. I'm using it also for my professional work as a wedding videographer. And since this camera has an APS-C sensor, that means that we have some lightweight lenses from Fujifilm and from Viltrox. They work really well on this camera. And they made this camera on the lightweight side, so we can use it for travel photography as well as for travel videography without any issues. We can throw it in the backpack and go travel with it lightweight, with lots of lenses, lots of different perspectives to shoot, lots of different ideas to shoot with only one body and several small lenses from Viltrox or from Fujifilm. And that's the main reason I sold my DJI RSC2 gimbal and I replaced it with the RS3 Mini, because this camera is very lightweight with the lenses, so I can put it on the RS3 Mini without any issues. By the way, I made a video about these two gimbals. You can check it in the card here. I'll put the link in the description below as well. If you are interested in camera gimbals, you can check it in my description. So the RS3 Mini from DJI has become the perfect gimbal for this Fujifilm XH2S. I even succeeded to balance the Fujifilm with the 13mm f1.4 from Viltrox vertically on the RS3 Mini without any issues. It took maybe 2 minutes, but I balanced it well. I'm really satisfied with the result. It's a great solution for me if I want to vlog vertically on the camera. Now it's doable without any problems. The autofocus of the XH2S in video mode is really mind-blowing. It's more than enough for me, I can say. It's not as good as the Sony. The Sony are more advanced in autofocus systems comparing to all the other manufacturers, not only Fujifilm, but Fujifilm has made a great step forward in autofocus systems on this XH2S that I really appreciate. Besides that, on the Fujifilm XH2S we have a full-size HDMI port. That's something really nice. We can monitor the videos using a full-size HDMI cable, which is more easy to use in the markets, and it's more robust and more sturdy comparing to the mini HDMI cables and the micro HDMI cables. So that's something that I really appreciate on this Fujifilm XH2S as well. The 4K 120 frames per second is a great feature for this camera for a great slow motion, even if it crops a little bit into the image, but mainly I can use a wider lens so I can get rid of this crop into the image without any problems. And I recommend you to use a wider lens when you are doing 4K 120 frames per second on this Fujifilm XH2S. On this XH2S we can record up to 6.2K in open gate 4:3 ratio. That means that now we can record on the total size of the sensor 4:3, and then we can crop in 16:9 for YouTube. We can crop 9:16 for TikTok, Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts afterward, because now we have more room in the image. We can crop, we can do whatever we want with the footages. We have more space to work with. That's something really nice. I never use this feature a lot because normally I decide before filming whether I want my video to go to YouTube Shorts, to Instagram Reels or to TikTok. But if I didn't decide beforehand, now I can record in open gate and decide later. That's a great feature on this camera. And now let's talk about the vlogging side for this XH2S. On this XH2S we don't have rolling shutter effect thanks to the stack sensor, the new stack sensor on this new camera from Fujifilm. That's something amazing for us creators and vloggers, because now when we pan the camera to the side or to the other side, we don't have this rolling shutter effect. That's something really nice on this Fujifilm XH2S, which made this camera amazing for videographers and vloggers as well. Another good feature for this camera which made it amazing for vloggers is the touch screen. I really like this touch screen. It's very responsive. It's amazing to have such a screen to dial all the settings when you are vlogging on the go. That's something really nice. I really appreciate it. This camera has also in-body image stabilization, which is a must for vloggers and content creators. We don't need to walk in the city with gimbals, with big gimbals. So this one offers in-body image stabilization with some electronic stabilization, and if we add to that the optical stabilization of the lens, of some lenses, that will be just perfect. One of the drawbacks of this camera, if you want to talk in vlogging section, it's the size of the camera. Even if it's not that big, but it's not very compact, such as the Sony ZV-E10, the Sony ZV-1, or even the DJI Action 3 or the GoPro Hero 11 Black. But you have to consider that in this body you have much more than the Sony ZV-E10 and even the Sony ZV-E1 that has been just released from Sony. And if you want to talk about the audio quality, now you are hearing the audio coming directly from the Fujifilm XH2S. I'm recording, by the way, externally on the full X5 here, but now the audio is coming only from the camera from the Fujifilm XH2S. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, whether the audio is usable, whether you are satisfied with such quality of audio from the built-in microphone of the camera. It's a little bit windy here, not that much, but it's not very quiet, and I'm walking, I'm moving. Let me know what you think also for the stability on this camera. I have the IBIS on, the electronic stab on, and I have the optical stabilization of my 10 to 24mm lens, the Fujinon lens. And now let's go back to the studio to talk about the downsides of this camera. So far I noted 3 drawbacks for this camera. The first one is the audio preamp. It's much better than the Fujifilm X-T4, but it's not as good as the Sony ZV-E10, for example. Fujifilm has a lot of work to do on the audio preamp in order to make it competitive with the other brands. That's something that I really hope that Fujifilm will work on for the next generation of the Fujifilm XH2S. The second drawback is the memory card for this camera. Fujifilm are using an SD card, but also as a main card it's a CF Express Type B, which is one of the most expensive cards in the market. I wish it was 2 SD cards. That would be great, because now we have fast, reliable, robust SD cards, much cheaper than the CF Express Type B. And if we want to get a CF Express Type B, we have to get an external card reader, which is also much more expensive than a normal card reader for an SD card. And that's only a suggestion for Fujifilm. If you can put only SD cards in your camera, that will be more affordable for us users and content creators. The third drawback for this camera is the price. It's expensive comparing to the full frame rivals today. It's almost the same price as the Sony ZV-E1. Of course, on the Fuji we have lots of good features that we don't have on the Sony ZV-E1, but in the opposite side it works also, because we have lots of good things on the ZV-E1 that we don't have on the Fujifilm XH2S. That's why I would like that Fuji review the price of the XH2S to be competitive with the other brands on the market. I think it's clear by now that I really like this Fujifilm XH2S, and I believe that it made my videos even better. The image quality, whether in photography and videography, of this Fujifilm is absolutely stunning. I really like it. I'm really satisfied with the color rendering, with the sharpness, and with all the details we can find on the images coming out from this Fujifilm XH2S. That's something that I really like. Add to that, the flip out screen is a must for content creators, and the customizable buttons on top of this camera are a must also for videographer and content creator, and I really appreciate it on this Fujifilm XH2S. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done it. If you want to help the channel, thumbs up under this video. Check the affiliate links in the description below, and thank you for watching. Ciao.